the idea of the public and the private is something that we talk about a lot. You know, I'm a private citizen doing my private thing. People don't have the right to, pry into my affairs. And I think that's something we kind of just bring in the Victorian period, as well as in our period, to kind of our understanding of the world. But there's other ways that language is then used in Victorian discourse, right? You've also got the idea of the public and the private, where the home is the private sphere, and the public sphere is the world of business, the world of politics, and all that. And so, of course, for women, you're always enmeshed in the private sphere, just pretty much by definition. But then there was this kind of the idea of the secret sphere, and that's the problematic area, because the private sphere in Victorian culture of the home and the domestic was actually a very influential part of the world and had a great deal of power on politics and on business. And in fact, as we've talked about in some other novels, it was meant to be the core of the Victorian society, right? The home, that private sphere, is what gives moral guidance to the world. And so as much as we talk about it as private, it's not private in the sense of out of the public eye necessarily, although it is to some extent, but it's that it's private in terms of a closed sort of community to some extent, but then it has all this power out. So, well, then what does it mean for it to be private? It's got all this influence, it's got all these connections to the outside world. You're kind of doing this performance of domesticity in a way that is public. So what does it mean for this sphere to be private? And a number of novels around between 1855 and about 1870 have this sort of question underlying them. I'm thinking of some of Margaret Oliphant's novels as well, where you get this sense of, well, is it okay to have secrets? Is it okay to have things that are just privately your business and that the rest of the world doesn't get to know about? Is that socially deviant? And you get the sense from the novels that people aren't sure what to think. You know, Lady Audley's secret, okay, well, let's say her secret is that she was married before and she had a child, which is what the ring and the baby slipper and the hair seem to imply. Well, that may be the case, but is that really something to... Maybe they all died tragically. We don't know yet. It's funny that nobody's ever even thrown out that possibility, right? That she was married, had a child, and they both died. Absolutely probable in the Victorian period. That would be a secret. Does she have the right to keep that sort of secret?
I think,
Sammy.
and I don't know if this is from the novel or from like my own view of the world, but I just get the feeling that if they had just died tragically, it wouldn't be a secret.
Okay.
Like there wouldn't be a reason not to talk about it.
Okay.
There wouldn't be a reason to share that with Michael or to know that coming into the Dawson family.
And I think that is the sense very much that Victorians were pushing up against and trying to sort out, right? That even that for the most part, if it's kept secret, there must be something bad about it, even if there isn't, right? There's kind of this sense that, well, even if you just want to keep that tragedy to yourself, the fact you want to keep it to yourself means there's something underhand. And so you get caught up in this sort of world where there almost is no privacy, because the very act of wanting to keep something private turns it into something deviant. It's an interesting question to ask throughout all the novels we've read. Is there any situation in which something is kept secret from the rest of the world where that secret is not perceived as being somehow deviant or treated in a negative way? I mean, I guess Jane Eyre becomes one of our most obvious other points of comparison, right? You've got Bertha, who's a secret. That seems to be a pretty sort of socially deviant thing to be doing, locking your wife up in the attic.
But even Jane, when she goes to St. John's house, is like, I don't want to tell you my name and like where I came from and stuff. But she admits it. She's like, I'll tell you in due time or something. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, so she has a secret. They know she has a secret.
Yeah.
And the girls respond with a certain amount of sympathy. St. John's a little bit more wary of it. But it's like the fact she confesses that she has a secret, like almost then sort of mitigates the bad part of secrecy in that situation. Well, and it's interesting that even with the worst secret in the world, such as with Hetty's situation, Adam still forgives her.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not like we have examples of people forgiving people for things like murder in our novels, or for things like locking your wife in the attic. And in Murder Again in Mary Barton. So we've got actually repeated experiences of people committing really atrocious acts in these novels. And as once those secrets come to light, people be like, oh, but look at all the circumstances, it was terrible, but there is forgiveness and there is some sort of reconciliation.
Like the secrets have to be brought to light for that to happen. Like Jane and Rochester can't get together until Jane knows about Bertha and understands his situation, and they like know more about each other.
Yeah.
That had it wasn't okay for Rochester to keep that to himself. He had to share it with Jane for them to be able to have a relationship.
Good. So then this brings us back to that question: what does it mean to be a private individual then? Clearly, it's not about secrecy. It's not about, I'm going to keep my business, and nobody else has the right to know. Other people have the right to know your business in these novels. I think one of the things that the novel does in terms of shaping modern consciousness is it really starts to put pressure on those lines between the private and the public. Because as we get all of the inside thoughts of all of these characters, we start to see the ways in which those boundaries of private and public are really permeable and really problematic, and the ways in which secrecy, breaks everything apart, as we see it acted out, on the page in front of us.